Welcome to All Things Abacus. My name is Miss Lynette. I've been an abacus teacher for about 21 years now, and I am here to help spread the good word of the abacus. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And I see people are trying to join, but I'm not sure what's going on. So thank you again. What are we going to talk about today? We are going to talk about more abacus. And it was really interesting. I actually started breaking down a concept where they were doing a different way of subtracting. And I'm not sure if I like it. So I finally figured out why I don't like it, because it's another strategy for the kids to understand. And just like, okay. So if I can remember what the question was. Hello, Tammy. Thank you so much for joining. Admit all. I don't know what's going on. Hi. How's it going?
Hi.
We just started, and then Audrey's supposed to be joining, but I don't see her
Cool.
joining. And then Elisa is supposed to be here as well. And we were just talking about I found this. It was a different strategy of, and I was trying to explain it, how they were doing negatives. Do you remember that? So it was 3, 6, 2, minus 1, 7, 5. And so let's see.
And I was trying to get adjusted because I had to sit in a recliner
Yeah.
and things are not cooperating.
So the concept that I found was they were taking this number and they were doing a minus. So 3 minus 1 is equal to 2. Not a problem, right? This actually
Right.
becomes 200. Then they started doing this. 6 minus 7. 6 minus 7 is minus 1. And then they
Okay.
do another one here. 2 minus 5 is equal to minus 3. And so then what happens is
Uh,
now they subtract it. They do 2 minus, 200 minus 10 is 190. And then hey, they do the minus 3. Minus 3 is going to give them 187. I don't like it
I don't
because
like it.
because
No.
it's another strategy when they don't understand their numbers, and I don't like it. As opposed to
Audrey,
understanding that the complement of 7 to make it 10 is 3.
correct.
The complement of 5 is 5,
5.
right? So how do
Yes.
we do this? Well, in abacus math, if I break up my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So what we do is if I take from here, right? 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to take 7 from here. I have to add back the 3 to here. And we
Yeah.
do the same thing with the 5. So if I take away the 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then we have to add back the 5 to here. It's a different way of thinking, but it was a little, I saw that and I was like,
Honestly,
why are we teaching?
that's convoluted. No.
Yeah. Audrey, did you see this new method? Oh, there you go.
I'm here.
Yeah. Did you
Trying
see
to
the
turn
new
my light
method?
on. I just came on, so I did not.
But you've not seen it in any of the other posts that you see?
Mm-mm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Some people are like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing next to sliced bread. And I'm like, what are you trying to teach them here? Are you teaching them to go into debt? I don't get it.
I don't know. No, you just blew my brain.
I'm just,
Can you start from the beginning? Because I just barely joined too, so I
yeah.
didn't see it from the beginning.
So, new paper. So the new strategy that I found was 362 minus 175. The problem, so here, what they did is they did 3 minus 1 is equal to 2, not a problem. And then they do 6 minus 7 is minus 1. And then they do 2 minus 5 equal to minus 3. Now, we got to still work this out. This becomes 200, right? We know that this is 200, and we know that this
Correct.
is minus 10. So this becomes 190. We still need to take away the 3. Excuse me. So it'd be 187. As an adult, okay, fine. But as a child, what are you trying to teach them? You still have to use a 10 frame. You still have to carry over. You still have to borrow. You're still borrowing, but you're doing partial subtraction.
Yeah,
Thoughts?
that makes sense.
What
The
makes
only
sense?
thing, like, this is good as long as they don't say, "Oh, my -3, I gotta put a 1."
Say that again.
You just don't. So, like, where the -3 is or where the -3 is
Yeah.
in the original, like how those are your hundreds, those are your tens, and they'll say those are my ones.
Oh,
I can
yeah.
see a kid putting a 1 there. But
Yeah.
other than that, like, this actually works.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine that it works, but as a younger grade, it gets to a point where it's like you're learning another strategy.
You are,
And it's like,
because you haven't learned anything about negative numbers, not at the younger age just yet.
exactly, because this was being taught in, they were talking about introducing this to second and third grade. And I'm like,
Say what?
but why? But why? Why? So for us in Abacus, what we do, right, is this is my 10 frame. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If we had a 10 frame here and I want to take away 7, what I'll do is I'll take away 7. I have to have 1, 2, 3 that I have left over. This goes into here. So it's 6 plus 3 is equal to 9. That's how we do it in Abacus.
Mhm.
So then here, we want to do 5. Well, what's 5? Well, if I take 5 away from here, this becomes 1, right? This becomes 1. So now it becomes 8. And I take away 5. So we have 5 left over. So we add the 5 here. So it'll be 2, it'll be 1, 8, and 5. It's a little bit messy, but that's, I'm trying to figure out how to word this one better. But in Abacus, what we do is we do relational awareness. So we know that if we want to take away 5, it's equal to minus the 10 plus the 5. If we want to take away the 7, it's minus the 7 is equal to minus the 10 plus the 3. This minus the 10 is all about grouping and regrouping.
Yes.
So, but that was the rabbit hole that I went down yesterday, and I was really annoyed.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah,
It's like,
my grade 3. And it's like, okay. Okay.
right, because they're
Anyways,
not ready for that. They're
they're
they're not ready for that.
y-
And they're trying to make the curriculums go so much faster because, oh, we got to compete with other countries. No, we don't.
no, we
We're
don't.
we're still going to be dead last, or we're not dead last, but we're still going
No,
to be struggling
we're gonna be
because we keep flipping and flopping.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
There's no consistency, whereas in a lot of the top countries, there is consistency. This is what they're doing, and they're teaching them as they progress
Yeah,
from the very beginning. Whereas
yeah,
when people are switching up curriculums, they keep jumping from one extreme to the next.
It's just like business. You got to stay with one business and just keep going.
All right, right?
Yeah. So, Elisa, Tammy, Audrey,
Yeah.
that was my little
Need to
thing.
stop being wishy-washy.
Yeah, and that's what it is. And I think that's the biggest thing, is not being wishy-washy.
Uh-oh. Abram heard wishy-washy.
Yeah. So, how are we doing?
I love our boy Abram.
Yeah.
Well, I apologize to everybody for last week. We had a rainstorm that snuck up on us, and before I knew it, I fell asleep. And when I woke up, it was almost 1 o'clock.
Yeah, I was gone. I made an effort to be 1 hour. I was a little bit over.
I tried so hard. I had everything ready, and that rainstorm came in. I didn't even know I fell asleep. And
Yeah.
when I woke up, it was almost 1 o'clock. I went, well, there went that class.
Yep.
It was
But I
a
got
great
back in
class.
time today.
Yeah, we did some deep diving on that one. And then we were talking about multiplication. I'm still working on the book. I'm almost done. I just got to put in like some mazes, and I'll get that ready for you, Elisa.
Yeah, I was able to find the book.
The what?
Well, the explanation of the problem. So I was able to find that.
Oh, yeah, and
Um, I really like your take on it. You broke it down, and I think focusing on nines, because when you're adding it, you see a pattern. What I did, I can't explain it how I did it, but it did minusing the 10 plus the 10 minusing the 1. Each time you add a 9, it I can't explain it. Anyway,
you want to show us?
not ready for that.
Okay.
So
Um,
I was working. I was just seeing how many times it starts over. I don't know how to explain myself, but I was working on it, and there's a pattern there. But because you broke it down and simplified it and put questions in there, just what you wrote was very good. So I'm not explaining myself very well. So
what we were talking about last week, there was this activity that we were looking at, and then it was just kind of a one-off. And I was like, what are we trying to do here? And so the question was, how much is six pencils? And so then it was like, well, there's got to be more to that, because I felt like that Abram needed to understand the times tables and what it really means, instead of just saying repeated addition or what have you. And so the question was more like, where did this? It's great that they have it's great that they have the graph. It's great that they have this, but the problem is where are they in the math journey? Because it's all about journey. So what I did is I broke it down, and that's where we get into like the repeated addition. And then there was like these numbers here, which I didn't like, because you're doing repeated addition, which is fine. So, but I was like, you know what? It would be better if we actually just kind of dive deep on the actual multiplication. So what I did was I changed this to be single digits. So it stayed within the math fact, because I wanted him to really understand the multiplication. So the idea here was, if I had 6 pencils and I have pencils, it's worth 9. And so we would, do the repeated addition. I'd get him to draw the number of pencils and how much it would be. So he would have to label it. And then we would go into repeated addition, and then we would have the array. So that's one way. For Abacus, we need to know the commutative. So cumulative property would be if I switch the numbers, if I had 9 pencils, how much would it be? It'd be 6 cents each. And so what would it look like as a repeated addition? And again, I added the abacus portion because, I'm all about abacus. So in repeated addition, we have to know our formulas. That's why I don't introduce repeated addition until they start learning how to chain, because once they know how to chain, this becomes easier. But the reason why I want the kids to do repeated addition is so they get really, really tired and they start memorizing. That's my goal. My goal is I want them to start memorizing because and they're going to gravitate to some of the numbers. One number is 6 times 5. I know if I take away 6, I'm going to get 24. I know if I add 6, I'm going to get 36 if I did 6 times 5. So understanding this part and going up and down the ladder of repeated addition would be fantastic. So then the idea here was, this is one of the concepts that's being taught in school. How many groups? So start circling all the groups and then figuring out how many and then write it all out. So I wrote this out better, and that's what I'm actually doing is I'm actually putting this into a more workbook like, so it would be easier and more engaging. So to leverage off of this, the next activity would be repeated subtraction, because I really want them to know how it would be when we start doing repeated subtraction and how it all relates. Because when we do division on the abacus, we need to understand the missing product or the missing multiplication factor. And again, I did it for the 9, and then I did it again for the 6. So if I took away, 1 pencil and I had 6, so then it would be the next thing would be figuring it out how many times you do it. And I'm going to go all the way to the bottom, and then they would have to figure out when to stop. Just because I said stop here doesn't mean that it actually stops. They have to critically think to understand when to stop. And I like that. So that was one of the things. And that was the other thing. It's like, you could do repeated addition. So going back to the original question was like, well, let's estimate. And I was like, ooh, that's another concept. And so I was just mentioning to Alyssa that be careful of the multiple concepts that's being taught at any given time. Unless he understands how to estimate and what it means to add and subtract, I would be careful of doing this too early. And that's the one thing I think in mainstream school is that they introduce too many concepts at once. And so my goal is to break it down into more manageable chunks and one concept at a time. I hope that helped, Elisa.
Yeah, I did. I have a question. I know it's kind of a little bit okay, I know in at least I was taught, when you add 2 odd numbers, you always get an even number.
Yeah.
When you add even and an odd, you get an odd number. My question is, in multiplication, when you are multiplying an even and even, you get an even number. When you multiply with
an even and an odd number, like 3 times 6 is equal, 3 times 2 is equal to 6, you still get an even number.
Get even number. So would that be a way of also understanding the pattern of learning your multiplication facts? Or would that be too confusing?
Me personally, I would be confused. Audrey?
Ditto. Confusing. Because then when they expand, when they get into algebra, and now we're doing a little more abstract, they're going to get lost in the sauce. They're going to be worrying so much about even and odds than what they're trying to achieve.
Okay.
I am a really big fan of knowing your building blocks and knowing once you get that solid, knowing the other strategies is great to know, but not necessarily great to in great to embed, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Okay. Cause like, so like my three boys, they did abacus when they were like 4.5, 5 years old. And so as they went through it, they knew abacus in and out. They knew, all the numbers. As Common Core came around, and as I mentioned before, I don't think it's the concept of Common Core is the problem. I think the Common Core implementation is the problem. And a lot of people don't know how to implement Common Core because we all were taught how to memorize. And so when you have your abacus, and then you start layering on the other strategies, they don't get confused with all the different strategies that's being layered on top because their foundation is solid. That would be the same concept with what you were mentioning about if you start going with the strategies are great as a shortcut if they know their foundation.
Makes sense.
So
Okay.
okay.
Just out of curiosity, did you understand it better when it was taught that way? When Elisa?
Oh, I was fiddling around with it with this morning. With your 9 times 1, they're both odd. So it's gonna be an odd number. 9 times 2, because when you're looking at the nines, it is doing odd and even. It's switching back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
9 times 1.
As an adult,
nine.
you see the pattern.
Right.
As a
But I'm saying,
child,
like, when you were a kid, when you were first learning it.
yeah.
I don't remember. I just kind of go through what my kids, because I got 4 olders, and then my youngest one, 10-year gap. So when they were going to school, when they were doing Saxon math, that was one of the things that they were taught, is recognizing just that small
Patterns.
little example of when you add an odd and an odd, you will always get an even. When you add an odd and an even, you will get an odd. And then even is always going to be an even.
Right. I remember being taught the adding and subtracting pattern,
Mm-hmm.
but that's as far as it went.
Yeah. So I don't know. It made sense with the nines when you're all, because that's what it's flipping. Every other number is either odd or even when you go through the nines.
Right. But see,
So-
I think that's my goal. My goal, my one problem that I don't like, if patterns are not universal. I think that's the problem. So this one problem that I was just mentioning, right? This only works at like a very specific system, a very specific question. When you have to do regrouping, it doesn't happen to everything. I don't know. I feel like that they're trying to find shortcuts for outliers as opposed to the general thing. So because if you did 2 times 3, that's an even number, right? 2 times 3 is
you have an
6.
odd and an even.
Right. Even if you did it the other way, 3 times 2. So it doesn't necessarily follow that pattern. It only follows that one pattern. Oh, that's what it was. There was another like rage baiting post that I saw. And I was like, this is not a hack. It's not a hack.
Is that cumulative property where you're flipping the numbers? Either way, you're going to get the same number in multiplication. You're going to get the same answer in multiplication.
Cumulative probably is not the
That's
problem.
commutative.
That's
Yeah, but
confused.
that's not a problem for multiplication. It's a problem for adding. And
Addition,
they're actually
yeah.
changing that out now. Did you know that? They were changing.
Huh?
So they do 3 plus 2 is not the same as 2 plus 3.
Why?
What?
Because this 2
That's associative property, right?
No. Associative property is what we do is 3 is equal to plus the 5 minus 2.
Right.
This is associative property because we replace this. We substitute this information to the association. This is the association.
Okay,
I have
go
to
on
dive.
explaining
I have to
here.
dive deep a little bit on that one. So like if we did 7 plus 5, right? Or 5 plus 7, what do? They break this up, they make it into 3, and they make this into 2, and they take this over here. But then here, do they break this up into 5, and then they break this up into 2? So now it doesn't become commutative because adding it, and they're starting to see it, which is what Abacus does. Abacus shows you that it's actually different. This is not proper. When we do commutative, we're doing plus the 5 minus 2, or minus the 2 plus the 5. This is Abacus commutative property.
Well, it depends on what your second number is, though, right?
It's always on the second. For Abacus, it's always the second number. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? But see, what I'm saying is the mainstream math is starting to see that commutative property is actually not this. It's actually this. Because this, the way, it doesn't matter if you do this first or this second. It doesn't matter. It will always be the same. This changes depending on, yeah. I don't know if that made sense, Audrey, but it made sense in Abacus.
Yeah.
I think if you show an
From
abacus
algebra, no.
Yeah. See,
For algebra, like that's just commutative because you have the commutative and the associate for just addition and multiplication, never for subtraction or division. So yeah.
Yeah. So it
But
was,
again, I'm not in the classroom anymore, so they
yeah.
could be reinventing things, and then the kids are coming home and they're saying, hey, mom, dad, or whoever is home, hey, I need help with my math homework. And then you're looking at it and you're trying to instruct it the way that you remember it, and they're saying, well, this doesn't look like how my teacher does it. And then all of a sudden you're sitting here trying to calculate one problem, and an hour and a half later you're ready to throw your own table out the window, and then you're just ready to call the school and all kinds of stuff. And all the kids is like, I just need help with my math homework. And you wonder why there's always a rift between schools and home.
Yeah.
And this is why my daughter and I fought for homework all the time.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Because she would tell me I was wrong. And I'm like, girl, I know how to do math. Don't tell me I'm wrong. But I was wrong because I wasn't doing it their way.
Yeah.
All right. And there's multiple ways of getting the same answer.
Yeah. Yes. There should be multiple ways after you know the fundamentals.
The foundation, of course.
Yeah.
Because that's the root of everything. All kinds of math, you got to get those foundations down.
I think that's what textbooks and math curriculum people, I think they forget that. I think they forget that they need to know this template first before they can expand out to other things. Before they start introducing hacks, before they start introducing like shortcuts, make sure they understand all of these things before they can go into that. Right? Then that was the same thing. So there was a post that I was reading. It's the same thing as the calculator, right? Like in the middle of the time that they started introducing calculator, there was two groups. One group would be like, no, calculators are so bad. And then the other group was like, no, calculators are the best. But there's actually needs to be a marriage of two, because those people that know the numbers can do the calculator really well and more efficient. It's just the same thing with using AI. And that was the one thing that was like, I don't understand when people come to my lives and they'll be like, you should use a calculator. It's like, you can. I use a calculator all the time. I'm not going to lie. I use a calculator to make sure that what I'm doing is correct. But one is what we're trying to do in Abacus is activate the brain. And that was another thing that I found was somebody made a post on, there was a study in 2024, the difference between pen and paper and the keyboard. and they said that there's no learning involved when you do keyboard, because you're pushing down and everything is all exactly the same, as opposed to writing it. Your brain has to conceptually understand all of those movements and those forms and stuff. So yeah, I went down a couple of rabbit holes for a few days. So
And that's easy to do.
yeah, I honestly, starting this journey, I didn't think it was going to be that easy. I thought it'd be more difficult to go down these rabbit holes on how everybody else thinks about, math and the brain and learning and stuff. And that was the other things. Like I remember reading this one scientific research paper. They had two groups in college. One group did note taking, another group did note taking with the keyboard, like with their computer. They were furiously typing on their computers, making sure that they were getting all the words that the professor was doing. But the group that did the best on the exams was those that actually did handwriting. Handwritten notes was the best. So that's why I try to make my workbooks a lot of writing. I try to get the kids to do a lot of writing. So what rabbit holes have you gone down, Audrey?
My life is a rabbit hole. Just one big hole. Because I've just been like doing a lot with really just like selling my books. Trying, because I actually just put a post out. I'm not sure if it went through or not. Of just asking people like what math topic is what's getting them stuck. And because it's all, every time you get a DM, you're like, oh, now I got adults that are going back to school, like 68, 72. 72 right now is my oldest. And they're just like, all right, let's go. And they're like, I still have problems with decimals. I still have problems with fractions. And I'm like, okay, so we break down some of these concepts. Some of them are purchasing the books and everything. But it's just very interesting that even this morning, some girl said that, oh, I'm going to get my GED at 27. I'm like, girl, you're young. Stop it. And she's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, you can definitely get it done. A lot of stuff for you is more so refresher. And your refreshing is, in this time span. And she's like, oh, thank you. I was afraid that I was like the oldest one. And I felt embarrassed by that. So most of the time it's like conversations is what I'm really been doing lately. Just, conversing with people. And especially they're starting to see it live and like, I think I need your help, or you're really good at how I break things down, because, we talk that maybe I shouldn't do too much teaching and all that, but that's what I am. Like I felt like I was going away from who I am. I am a teacher. I am an educator. I'm a motivator. I am, I don't want to say inspiration because that's too far, but for the most part, just how to break down concepts. Because when we go into schools, we see how fast things are happening.
Yeah.
Imagine now you have been out of school for forever, and now you're going back to school. You're sitting in a class that's 12 weeks long, and the class you'll do fine the first day, but then the second day you're like, whoa, this is going pretty fast. Third day you're like, oh wait, we're talking about midterms already? And you're like, yeah, because it's 12 weeks. They're trying to jam as much stuff into it, and it's overwhelming. So I try to, when I do go on my lives, just really, let's pause, let's think. Like just how you're trying to say you're activating the brain. And we're all trying to work through what's called that math trauma.
Yeah.
So I have to go past your childhood trauma and your childhood math trauma and your fixation of basically saying I'm terrible at math. I gotta go through that just to hit the person.
Yeah.
And it's a lot. It's very tiring. It takes a lot out of you because you want people to win so badly. Just get that
Yes.
one win of I have accomplished, I have maybe not completely say I love math, like buying the t-shirts and all that stuff. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
you don't have to marry it. You just have to like it.
Yeah.
And to the point where you can get to say, I think I understand it. To me is a win,
Yeah.
is a complete win. So that's what I've been kind of doing, you know?
I had a parent that actually purchased my books, and she mentioned that her kid was autistic, and I'm like, okay, try this out. And I obviously I don't know, and so I said, what kind of level do you think this your child is at? And they're like, oh, it's grade 2. It's like, okay, fine. So get the grade 2 bundle and stuff. And so she looked at it and she's like, oh, my kid can't do that. And I'm like, do you want, and I actually asked her, do you want to set up a Zoom call to see if how I would teach it and stuff? Because I asked her specifically, because she bought like an adult bundle and then she bought the grade 2 book. And I'm like, did you look at the grade 2 book or did you look at the bundle? Because when you look at the bundle, it is a little overwhelming. And then she
Mhm.
started saying, well, my child's got a fox P1 genetic disease or genetic disorder. I think it's a disease, and it's genetic, and there's only 300 people in the world that has been diagnosed with this. And I'm like, I don't know what that means, but if you could just you know let's come on a Zoom call and I'll show you exactly what I'm trying to do. But she's like, nope, nope,
Mhm.
nope. And I'm like, okay, it is what it is. And it's too bad that it would have been interesting to see if the abacus could help, because I've had a lot of people on the spectrum. I have a lot of teachers that are, helping with intervention stuff, and they said it's the greatest thing
Mhm.
next to sliced bread. So I wonder if it's the parent was just so like, you know,
Big.
yeah, before the child
Yeah.
gets into it. So I just thought it was
So that's
interesting because
another layer
yeah,
that we have to get through in order to reach. And it's tough
yeah,
because she's been protecting her child for so long,
yeah, exactly,
for so
exactly,
many things. And now it's like, okay, this is one more thing. And but there's another person I think it can work, but I don't want to destroy what we've been working on for so
exactly,
long.
exactly.
So
It
I
it
get
would
it.
have
But
been, yeah,
I think after a while, she's probably going to be still one of those people that are watching and not really responding.
maybe,
And
yeah,
one day out of nowhere, she's gonna be like, you know what? I'm gonna try it.
yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, I've had a lot of those, but again, it's just a lot about planting that seed.
The damn seeds.
I know, right? So
So
it's
many seeds.
a lot of seeds. If you take a look at one strawberry, that's a lot of seeds on that strawberry.
I know.
Tomatoes got a lot of seeds.
Oh my gosh. We're not
So
trying. Are we building a garden or orchard or a whole acreage?
it doesn't matter.
Still
It
starts
doesn't
with
matter.
one seed.
It always and you don't know if that seed is going to grow.
True.
So that's
We're
why
going
that's why
back
there's
to
so many seeds.
the
So all
mustard seed.
Yes.
right.
I have a question, Audrey, and I might have asked this before. So, I know at certain grade levels, you have certain things or certain um, requirements that you must master in math.
Okay.
So, um, why do they have those requirements? Is it, does
That-
it really, and then of course you're teaching math. Well, okay, there's certain things, there's certain concepts, sorry. There's certain concepts that you learn. For example, being able to sort, um,
Mhm.
understanding your numbers, what they being able to write your numbers, understanding number order, and um, then you have being able to add objects together, being able to subtract, multiply, So at the elementary levels, then there's also different other types of math, because this is just basically arithmetic, right? So
Right.
at what point do you feel that a child, what would you consider a child being behind? If they don't like by this grade, if they don't know this, or when you're helping someone right now, let's say they're in a second grade, but they're this far, do you go according to grade level, or you go according to mastery level, what they understand, what they don't understand?
I think there's a couple questions that's going on.
Yep.
One, what's the point after a basic arithmetic? So it's kind of like, well, what is the point of doing algebra? Why do we have to be so abstract? Because in our general everyday life, we're doing adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, and we're looking at percentages and looking at fractions. But then why are we torturing our children with algebra? It was kind of like one I was kind of hearing. But then the grade level was, how do we indicate which age? Because here's my thing, they keep changing it every, not 1 year, but every 2 to 3 years. Because when I was in the classroom, I saw the shift went from stuff that I would normally see an eighth grader do is now I'm seeing in sixth grade. And then when I talk to my friends that are teaching fourth grade, they're like, oh yeah, my kids are doing that now. I'm like, that used to be an eighth grade skill. Why are we doing that in the fourth grade? So I don't, and to be honest with you, I don't think anybody knows what grade levels is. Just what is appropriate, what are the kids, because everyone learns differently, but we're trying to put everybody in the same bubble. And that was the problem that I had when I was in the classroom.
Uh-huh.
So now you're making the kids feel bad and the parents because you're sitting here saying that, oh, your child's not at grade level. Well, maybe because the child hasn't had the exposure of this yet. But if you gave them the exposure of that, they will probably soar. But because maybe they had multiple teachers, people quit, people get sick, they had multiple subs, they had multiple teachers. We as the district, we keep changing okay, we're going to do this curriculum. And literally 2 weeks later, okay, we're switching curriculums because they found something cheaper or they found a good quick fix for iReady. Let's talk about iReady.
What is I ready?
All right. It's electronic. They tried to use to track our kids' progress throughout the years.
I
They just
Excel.
use to track kids
It's
so they can
yeah,
sell more stuff.
it's iExcel. It started off with just iReady, and then iExcel bought it. And so
Bought
what
it.
they were trying to do is, it's a website just like uh interactive online math problems that's supposed to track the stages of every child, but it doesn't do that.
Right. And there's lawsuits out now over it
Yeah.
because there's some teachers that are putting some lawsuits out because they're saying it's supposed to be from K to eighth or 1 to 8, but up to eighth. But they're
Yeah.
using it in high school to use to track the kids' abilities. But this is the thing. The kids keep getting overly assessed. So all they're doing is C, 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 A, C, C. And then there's a part that take deep breaths. So imagine as a teacher when you got one kid is on the breathing part, another person is clicking, another person is breathing. It's just like a collage of different sounds going on. Um, but it's not properly looking at the progression of the kids. They're just using the kids' information and the school's information so they can sell them more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes down to grade level, listen to your kid. Because do I remember that you're doing homeschool? Am I remembering correctly? I can't
Yes, I am.
remember. Okay. So listen to your child. And then if you can push a little, push a little. Let's see if we can do this. Then you got that whole all right, he's doing great with this. All right, let me see if I could take it a step notch. Let's add. And sometimes the step from one standard to a next, it could be just simply like going from one-step to two-step equations, or adding distributive property. And then it's always that progression. So you just need to listen to your kids. I know everyone keeps talking about the standards because they're trying to generalize. And if you don't get it as quickly as everyone else, immediately they're thinking you're special ed. And that's why that's rapidly growing, because there's a lot of kids that are labeled special ed that aren't. They just
they're
need to
not.
be exposed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's my take on it. On that whole progression. You keep doing what you need to do.
Yeah.
And start worrying about your kids. Because a lot of kids are graduating from high school with a second grade reading level and can't do math without a calculator.
Mm.
Really?
So
That's what I'm hearing, and it's scary.
they're pushing a lot of kids through. And they're trying to say, oh, we can put this kid in an AP class to show that in the AP, if you ever look at the statistics, AP classes has increased after COVID. There have been a major increase with AP classes. We have kids that in general ed classes passed with a D, barely got there. And they're putting them in AP geometry.
Why?
And now all of a sudden, I had a flood of kids taking AP geometry. And I'm like, I had you last year. I love you. I really do. But you're not an AP kid. And they're like, I know I'm not. And I'm like, so why are you in an AP class? Why are we not talking about this? Because my schedule, and I'm like, no, mom, get on the phone now. But I have to be the person to tell them, get on the phone, change your schedule. They say I can't change it. You can change it. Do you need for me to be on the phone? Because I'll make it happen. What do you want? So, yeah, there's a lot of kids that are passing through, especially in the city schools. There's a lot of kids that are just moving through. I don't want to see Daquan again. I don't want to see little Miss Susie again. They just push them on through. But push them on through to go to what? That's the statistics that scares me. You're pushing them through to what? If they're not going to college, what are they doing?
Well, I mean, back to that whole, I don't know if you call it a crisis or a blooper or whatever you want to call it over there at the Oklahoma University. That girl was saying she got failed. She shouldn't have been failed because of her religious beliefs. She wasn't failed for that. She was failed. She got a failing grade because she made no sense on her paper. And what she was writing about had nothing to do with what she was asked to write about. And they even put her paper on the internet and you're reading it, and I'm like, there's not even complete sentences on there. There's no form to this paper. What is she talking about? The religious persecution? No, that's not why she failed. And there's a lot of people talking about how students can't read, they can't do math, and I'm just like, oh my, this leaving no kid behind has not worked. It has failed miserably. They need to take that back out and start failing kids again.
Yeah, Lynette, you mentioned that in one of your lives about the don't No Child Left Behind.
Yeah,
You were like
no
talking about
child
that.
left behind.
But they're
It has
behind. They're
failed.
even further behind.
Yes,
So like the idea of it, we get. We want to support the kids, all right, ones that are not at supposedly grade level,
Yeah.
what can we do to
Yeah.
support them to get up there? Now, how
They're
should I put it?
they're failing on the actual intervention when they
Yes.
meant to say no kid left behind. And I mentioned this to somebody else and they're like, no. It's like it is just like Common Core, just like No Kid, there was good intentions. What it was is the implementation is the problem.
Right.
The intentions were meant to be good. I don't knock Common Core, I knock the implementation. There's been a lot of people that are like, I don't know why we're learning it this way. It's like, this way is a problem because whoever's teaching you cannot understand it and cannot translate. Because what's teaching? Teaching is all about communication and about being able to break down an information that's a little bit complex and be able to be digestible to another person. Teaching is about communication. And if a computer programmer cannot communicate their thoughts and patterns and their ideas in a computer application,
Mhm. Mhm.
it's kind of mute. So,
Right.
and I think
But
people forget.
they're also, it has also broken down to that they're all teaching toward the state testings, so
Yeah,
that
that
All about
everybody,
testing.
so everybody can pass the state test. When my kids were in school, they didn't go from chapter to chapter. They jumped around from chapter to chapter. So they covered everything that would possibly be on the state test. Here in
Mhm.
Florida, it's called the FCAT. And I hated that thing when the moment it come out. And I mean, my baby, my son, when he was in third grade, he come out of third grade. He informed me that he was not going back to school because of all the pressure that they put on for these testing. So I
Mhm.
went back to that school and I said, okay, guys, what are we going to do? He says he's not coming back because y'all have put so much pressure on this child, which is a genius. He
Mhm.
knows this stuff. Y'all know he knows this stuff. So how are we going to get him back in the class for fourth grade?
No.
what was
You
that
know,
saying you said, Audrey? Testing is not proving acknowledgement. Do you remember that what you mentioned?
Yeah.
What was
I don't
that?
even remember what I had for breakfast this morning. Oh yeah, it didn't happen. Um
yeah, me.
I just feel like testing is not really equating to our abilities. I just feel like my whole idea about testing is like, one, we're not trusting the teachers. We used to trust the teachers to create
Yep.
the tests. They're not doing that because they're getting rid of a lot of the really good teachers that did break down concepts. The curriculums, as I keep saying, keeps fluctuating. So now, just like you're saying, that Tammy Lou, that we're teaching to the test because they don't trust their teachers. Because when I started, we were like, say, multiple people had Algebra 1. Let's just say there's like 4
Yeah.
teachers that were teaching Algebra 1. Big enough school to do that. So what we did was once a week, we will get together. How's it going with your class? How's it going with your class? All right, we're going to have a quiz coming up because we have our curriculum. We wrote the quizzes. We took turn to write the quizzes, to write the assessment, make sure it matches what the keynotes or the standards are, and we gave the test and we talked about our results. But now it's almost like you're a teacher, just be in the classroom, but you're going to teach the kids what we want you to teach. And then here's the sad part, the curriculums that they're using, like Eureka Math, um, what's the other one that I really
Sexton
hate?
Math, Go Math.
Um, no, it begins with an I. Illustrative math, I think it's called.
Oh, I don't know that one. Okay.
Trust me, you don't want it. It's garbage. And it doesn't match the assessments at all. They're doing a lot of explain, but how can a kid explain if they're not taught? It's like they're skipping a huge step. So we're expecting, it's almost like if we were supposed to take a high school test and we weren't teachers, we weren't educators, nothing of that. They say, hey, you want to get a raise, you need to take this test. And then you get this packet in front of you, and this is math that you haven't seen since you were in high school.
Yeah.
The same thing is happening here. We're asking kids to define things, to tell me how you do this. How would you break this down without instruction or refresher or guidance, just like everyone else? And I see that the main reason with the Common Core was because we got a lot of people traveling. And what was happening, say, in Georgia wasn't the same thing happening in Maryland, wasn't the same thing happening in California. So, especially with our military families, and this is a big pull that they had where I was, their military families, you travel all over the place. And then a geometry class in Maryland is not the same as they will have in Louisiana. It's not the same level they will have in Montana or Oregon. So when a kid goes and they're about to graduate high school, all of a sudden the counselor says you can't graduate. Why? Because the math class that you took in Texas is not of the same caliber of what we have here in Maryland. And that happened to one of my students, actually one of my basketball players. And I was like, okay, we have a month and a half before graduation. All right, I can teach her. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fast track it. Here's the first quiz. Do you understand? Awesome. A. Beautiful. Now, second check. Awesome. Here we go. Third chapter. Okay, we got to talk about this. And we talked about this. Okay, we're going to retest. I'll make a new test. I don't care. And we did it during her lunch period. How many other teachers do you know would do that? There are some
Don't
that
know
would,
any.
but not that many, because they think, oh, my hands are tied. No, it's not tied. You can do something. You can be outside the box, but a lot of people are afraid to be outside the box because a lot of our teachers are brand spanking new and they don't have a mentor. They got rid of the mentor programs. They're
I'm
all
going to
gone.
add to that.
Oh,
I'm
So,
going to add to that.
go ahead.
They could be seasoned, but then the problem is parents are suing the schools for undeclared curriculums. So
Mm,
that's another thing that has a problem. So
no.
yeah,
What's
so
undeclared curriculums?
anybody
Yeah.
who buys anything from TPT. So all of the TPT is not curriculum based. It didn't come from district and comes down. So a lot of districts, a lot of parents have sued the districts because the districts are like, we cannot condone this type of activity, this type of information, because it wasn't district approved. And so that's the other side of things. So it's one side that the teachers are not taught, or they're not, or they're new, or what have you, but that the other side is there's parents who'll be like, you know what? So I had my school district, and I heard was sued that because one of the volunteer parents did not have a degree. And I'm like, you're volunteering?
Right.
You only need to teach the kids ABCDs. It's not like you're teaching the kids college. You're doing kindergarten, first grade, second grade. This is how you read,
Right.
whatever. But because the parents were like, I don't want, and I'm assuming, I think I heard something like this was an immigrant and they had a thick accent. I'm assuming
oh,
that there was some sort of problem with that, whatever.
yeah.
So because the parents sued them and the district didn't want to deal with it, now everybody who volunteers in my district has to have some sort of degree of some sort.
All right, then pay me. I'm not being a volunteer for that.
Yeah. So that's the
Hey,
flip side on things. We
yeah,
have the teachers, but then
everybody
we have
wants
the
to sue.
parents. Yeah, everybody's just
Yeah,
very so.
everybody wants to sue.
It is what it
I
is.
was like, okay, you can sue. Let me give you what I have. Here's the $2.50 that I have. Enjoy.
Yeah, no, they did. Yeah, they
Oh,
didn't
I
sue the teacher. They sued the
I
district for
know
not.
they were going for the district,
Yeah,
but the district will all weigh heavy on the principal, and the principal's coming down
yeah,
onto
exactly,
the teacher.
exactly.
And I'm like, okay, you're the one that said yes.
Yeah,
So instead of putting the hammer down on me, just say, you know what? I take the responsibility for that. But that's
yeah,
hardly ever gonna happen.
yeah. And that was
But
another side. Yeah, and the other one was the parents sued because the activities in the classroom did not align with the district approved curriculum. So
and
there
would it be
goes.
hilarious? They increased because of that volunteer person.
Yeah,
Like they
well,
increased like their scores, their knowledge, their
yeah,
understanding.
exactly, exactly. But it is what it is, and that's the things that we have to deal with. So I'm not saying, I'm not poo-pooing on the whole. I'm just certain things happen, and we move depending on what it is.
People
So
amaze me.
yeah. So that is time. I want to make sure that I respect everybody's.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I've been trying to be more diligent on doing the hour of office hours. But thank you again, Audrey, for the special visit. Thank you, Tammy, for joining.
Sure.
Alisa, it's
Invite.
always been a pleasure.
Yes. I will enjoy the time that I had last week, even if it's overtime.
Yeah,
'Cause-
it was yes.
Yep. I'll enjoy
And
it.
did you review it? Did you review the videos?
Oh, yes, I've gone through the videos.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yep.
So my goal is to get the multiplication out, and then it would only be the 9 times table, but it's going to be with the sprinkle of what division is. And so once that gets like squared away, then I'll be able to publish that out. And so it's not just the 9 times table, it'll be the times table with that. And then I'm still working on what I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out like volume 2 for adults. But Tammy, I think you're going to really enjoy book 3, grade 2.
I'm just waiting for tomorrow.
Yeah, I think you're going to really
It'll be
enjoy
out.
it. Yeah.
Yep.
So thank
I
you
think
again,
so,
everybody.
too.
Huh?
But I think so too.
Yeah. Thank you again,
I
everybody, for
love
joining.
Abacus, Audrey.
Have a good day, everybody.